mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2 of the new Amazon Prime series, Outer Range. This show has been created by Brian Watkins. I looked this guy up on IMDb. He doesn't have any other credits, and this is a pretty big one to get out of the gate, it seems. But it stars Josh Brolin. I'm going to glance at my notes over here. Lily Taylor. Josh Brolin, you know from a million things. Lily Taylor, you probably know from a million things. Imogen Poots, you've probably seen in a bunch of stuff. It's a lot. All these are pretty big name actors who have been in a lot of different things. Tom Pelphrey, who I think you guys will most recently know is playing Ben on season 3 of Ozark. Noah Reed, who you guys would recognize from Schitt's Creek. Will Patton, who I'm actually going to talk about Will Patton a little bit later, actually, so I'll save that. But episodes 1 and 2 are called The Void and The Land, respectively. Both of these titles play a big part in each of these episodes. Like, it's not like The Void is like the focus of episode 1 and The Land is the focus of episode 2. Both of them are at the forefront of each episode. So, both, like, you could switch the titles. The Land could be episode 1, The Void could be episode 2. Both come into play. And I think they do a good job of kind of setting the tone. And I am still talking about the titles, not the episodes. Not setting the tone, but giving an idea of the style of the show, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But I love the first 2 episodes of this show. It's pretty rare that I come out of the first 2 episodes as excited about something as I am about this. This looks like this is going to be a really, really fun show. Really cool. Whoever called this a combination of Yellowstone and True Detective was spot on. That's a pretty accurate assessment. But let me get into the characters a little bit, because like I said, I don't want to make this spoilery, and this is a spoiler-heavy show. So, here's a spoiler for you right now. I'm going to be covering this all season. Amazon Prime is going to be releasing 2 episodes a week on Fridays. I think it's 8 total, so we'll have 4 total weeks, 3 more weeks of this show to cover. But I'm going to cover it because I absolutely love these first 2 episodes. But like I said, non-spoilery for the first video, so I can give people an idea of whether or not I feel like it's something they should watch. Clearly I do, but I want to give some more details to kind of sell you guys on it. So Josh Brolin plays Royal Abbott. He owns the Abbott Ranch, and just like Yellowstone, it's a big, massive ranch. It's in Wyoming instead of Montana. They live in a big, giant. His whole family, multiple generations, live in this big, giant house on the ranch. Again, just like Yellowstone. So far, we've seen his wife Cecilia. That's who Lily Taylor plays. His 2 sons, Rhett and Perry, and his granddaughter Amy. Amy is the daughter of Perry and his wife Rebecca. I don't know if it's not disconnected from the rest of the storyline, but there is some storyline here about Perry's wife Rebecca having gone missing. They've only talked about just kind of like the fact that she is missing and how long she's been missing, but like that's it. And I'm wondering how this is going to tie into the rest of the storyline. But there's this character as well, but we haven't seen her. So there's a lot going on in these first 2 episodes that I don't want to spoil, like I mentioned earlier, but I do want to talk about the titles, because like I said, the Void and the Land, those 2 titles to me are indicative of how this show works, and that this show seems to be kind of like almost 2 different concepts running parallel to one another. You have the first one, which is like Yellowstone, like I just described. You got cowboys in Wyoming, ranches, cowboy shit. There's a storyline going on between the Abbott Ranch and the neighboring ranch, which is the Tillersons, and the Tillersons are basically making a claim that a portion of the Abbott Ranch is not actually owned by them, and they're going to take that portion of the ranch. It's like a 1 mile part on like the western border, and this 1 mile would add up to like 600 acres of land. And obviously, Royal Abbott, that's Josh Brolin's character, is very opposed to that. So there's an ongoing kind of feud between these 2 families, and there's been a feud, but now the feud is kind of like had gas poured on the fire with this attempt to get 600 acres of his land. But somebody just walked by my fucking window. Like, who the fuck is that? Uh, anyway, that really threw me off. Anyway, back to the Yellowstone comparisons. The father of the Tillersons, Wayne Tillerson, that's who Will Patton plays, and Will Patton also plays a father. I won't say which one on Yellowstone. So we even have an actual actor who plays in each show. So that's why I said like the titles kind of work to show the difference between the two shows, because even though one episode is called The Land, there is the story arc that revolves around the land that the Tillersons are trying to buy from the Abbotts. No, not buy from the Abbotts, take from the Abbotts. And that's the kind of like more grounded aspect of the show. But then there's also the portion that's very kind of like supernatural in nature. There's a giant hole, a void, that's a void, not one word, a void. That's I believe it's at a different border of the Abbott Ranch, and we don't know shit about this hole. Like, it's massive. Royal does a few attempts to try to like cover. He's like throwing sand into it by a shovel, and it's again, imagine trying to like fill up the Grand Canyon with a shovel. It's not that big of a hole, but it was equally as pointless shoveling dirt in there. He tries to cover it with a tarp. It's ridiculous. But there's this giant void in a portion of his ranch, and we don't know anything about this hole. We don't know why it's there, what it does, what happens if you throw stuff into it. All we know is that throughout the course of these 2 episodes, a lot of shit goes into that hole. And we don't one of those things, we have something of an idea about what happened to it, but there's a whole lot of other stuff that gets thrown in there that is unaccounted for. And the mystery surrounding the hole, the tension that surrounds it, the music swells, there's like a loud rumbling, horses freak out when they get near it, and then there's a character, the Imogen Poots character named Autumn, and she shows up like she's a drifter, and she just kind of like wants to camp on their land, but you could tell there's something else going on with her. She feels drawn to this land. She's very creepy once she gets there. A whole lot of questions surrounding Autumn. So that's kind of like the mysterious aspect of the show. And I'm wondering if they're going to stay parallel, or if these 2 storylines are going to converge, go back and forth, whatever. But I'm equally as invested in both. And I think having something that's interesting, like what's going on between the Abbotts and the Tillersons and how that escalates and what comes out of that, is interesting on its own. And that's kind of like the Yellowstone perspective. But then how this is going to relate to all the mystical shit and the whole and what's up with Autumn, all of that is equally as interesting in a completely different way. And I'm fine, like, if each of those things were its own separate show, I'd be invested in each of those shows. So to have each of those things in this one show, and it doesn't feel bloated, it doesn't feel messy, it's really good, man. It's really intense. It's really fun to watch. Let me see what else I have if I mention anything. Oh, yeah, I did. Did I mention there's also a murder that's being covered up, and that the local sheriff is investigating. So that's a thing, too. But yeah, this show is super interesting. It's creepy. It's really well acted. It's just fucking fun. So I'm definitely sticking with this one. I will be back for the next 3 weeks covering these 2 episodes. Going forward will be spoilery. I'm gonna like dive a little bit deeper into the episodes because there's a whole lot of shit to flesh out. I'm almost kind of glad I don't have to do it with this video because I'm kind of short on time, and I feel like this is a very heavy show. There's a lot to go over, but man, super fun. But a couple of comments before I wrap this one up. It at times is too dark. There's not enough. It's a very flat kind of darkness where it's very difficult to see. I watched it in pitch blackness, and there were still moments where I'm like, I can't really tell what's going on because it's all very drab and muted. There's not enough contrast between the different levels of black, not enough light for you to kind of like, I can't make out this, but I can make out that. There's not enough of that, so there's some very dark scenes. But there's also a lot of really dope scenes, and one of my favorite scenes is there's a scene where Royal, Josh Brolin's character, is praying, and it's a prayer that goes completely out of bounds and completely to the left, and it was a really cool scene, but justifiable. Like it shows you a lot about how he's dealing with everything that's going on his ranch at the moment. So, like I said, really cool show, really fun, all kinds of cool themes going in here, tones. It's impressive to me. I'm enjoying this one. So I'll be back for the next 3 weeks to cover this season. And until then, peace.